We're going to talk about picking technique again today, and more importantly, how to use economy of motion in your alternate picking. Something I don't see talked about that much is how the upstroke can be used as a returning motion to prepare the downstroke again, as opposed to them being two distinctly different motions on the wrist. So most people, when they alternate pick, it looks something like this. If I slow it down, we get like a downstroke and an upstroke. You can see both of those motions. You've got a downstroke going downwards, upstroke going upwards, and they're both distinctly different wrist motions. You can see me do either one. Now, the upstroke does not actually have to be a motion at all. What we can do is we can use the upstroke to return back to where we came from. And all we have to do here, provided your technique is nice and relaxed, is displace the wrist on the downstroke and then let it return back to neutral. So we get this. Hopefully you can see the difference. Instead of downstroke, upstroke, I get downstroke, let it return back to neutral. Downstroke, let it return back to neutral, like that. And this allows us to only really have to think about doing a downstroke in succession and accidentally get an upstroke out of it. So instead of doing this, which I see a lot of people doing, we get something like this. Downstroke, return to neutral. So hopefully you can see there, the pick attack sounds a bit weird here because I'm doing it really slowly, so being that relaxed at that kind of tempo is always going to sound slightly strange. But it does really help you get a feel for not doing an upstroke unnecessarily and trying to use excess force to do that. All it has to do is return back to the previous point it was at before it did the downstroke. So we get this. And it's incredibly fast, and it doesn't feel like I'm pushing that really hard with the forearm. I don't feel like I'm tensing up hugely when I do that in any of these techniques. So if I try and play something with that, let's say I'm doing some kind of 6-note per string thing, when I'm trying to do that, is just feel the downstrokes, and the upstrokes are just a consequence of doing a downstroke and displacing the wrist. So if I speed that up, it's quite quick. And it doesn't require me to really force the issue there because I'm not having to pull the wrist up like this, so I'm naturally more relaxed. So the way to practice this is to do it incredibly slowly to start with. You want to pick one note, pick down, let the wrist return to neutral and catch the string on the way back. Hopefully you can see what happens there. The real indicator you're getting this right is that the wrist, as I've talked about before, never comes past this point. You never see this going on. And this is often an indicator that the technique's not very good. If you start seeing this motion here, an engagement of the forearm backwards, so you're almost like bringing the wrist backwards like this, that generally speaking is a sign that your technique is slightly questionable when you're alternate picking. And you don't really want that. It's okay to have it a little bit if you're doing upstroke starting lines or things that maybe go this way a little bit, because you might have seen players play like that before. That's not too bad. It's not ideal, but you can get away with it. And when I'm actually playing live, I end up doing that quite a lot myself, just because my technique's not perfect either. But it's just, if you're doing a upwards escape motion, so you're getting this kind of thing going on, and you're seeing a lot of this going on regardless of that wrist coming back, you're definitely doing it wrong. The wrist should at minimum be straight, and well, at the end of a downstroke maybe be slightly past 90 degrees, and then it returns back. So you get this, not this, all the way up. Something to consider And like I say, the beauty of this is that it doesn't actually require much effort to get it very, very quickly on one string. You can practice it on different strings and just try and really get this idea of that wrist coming back to neutral. It might sound a bit scrapey on the E, A and D string. Doesn't really matter because at speed it's not going to do that. But if I play it on the D string slowly, it'll sound like this. Something like that. So you get the idea. We can just make an adjustment to our playing and just get used to the kind of slightly more scrapey sound. And then at speed, you don't really hear it because the pick attack disappears, you're hitting the string harder because you're playing faster. That's just how these things work. So hopefully that's a helpful video. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll be looking forward to hearing from you.